Kids, good morning. Today we're going to talk about why it gets better. Now, a couple of years ago, when everyone was doing the It Gets Better videos, I did an It's Get Better video too. But no one bothers to explain how or why it gets better. So I'm going to try my damnedest to give you an example of how and why it gets better. So here goes. First of all, when you're young, when you're really young, you're a baby or a small child. If someone dies, it's hard for you to process. You really don't process it in the way an adult does. So you get past it faster. But also you're much more impressionable. So I'm going to give you an example of how that really works. When I was a very young child, a baby, I was taken to visit my aunt. And apparently she had a new sofa, which at 6 months old or 9 months old or a year old, you don't think about those things. You don't know. And I was handed a bowl of dry cereal to sit and eat and entertain myself. And I decided to get up and jump on the new sofa, do a little dance, and I spilled the dry cereal. Not a big deal. All you have to do is vacuum it up or sweep it up and it's gone. But instead, my nasty aunt came out in hair curlers and she beat the living shit out of me. Now, it left a lasting impression. For the last 46 years, every time I see a woman in hair curlers, I cringe and I shrink up in horror. And I never knew why until my grandfather died and my aunt finally told me at the funeral about the beating with the hair curlers, and then suddenly it all made sense. I still don't like seeing women in hair curlers, but at least I know why I don't like women seeing women in hair curlers. So there's a little personal aside. Now, as a child, up until the 2nd grade, I was very skinny because I grew very quickly. I ate like a cow, but I was a very small preemie child, and I shot up like nobody's business. And I got to be at least a foot taller than everyone else in my class. But then we moved in the 2nd grade, and somehow that led to a depression in me, or some kind of change in me, in which I started to protect myself because I was with these new kids and they weren't my friends, and they weren't that welcoming at first. And so to protect myself, I started to eat a lot and I started to gain weight. So then I was a foot taller than everyone and chunky. So they used to make fun of me and they used to just ridicule me for years and years and years, until I finally got very physically active. And then I started looking good. But in my mind's eye, in my self-esteem, my worldview of myself, I'm still this huge fat chub. Now, I look back on pictures of me in high school and I'd say, damn, I'd hit that. That was good. I used to look really good. But in my mind's eye, I was this big bloated mass from hell that just looked awful all the time. I still fight with that now, but now I'm getting older and I am getting a little chunkier, so that comes with age. And anyway, I had this self-image issue and I had all this bullying going on, but I managed through it. And I know some kids just give up, but there's a reason why you don't give up, and I'm going to explain this to you. Now, the next big adventure in my life was when I turned 17 and was out. Besides being this big athlete and having a girlfriend, I had a fake ID and I was out doing drag shows and writing comedy and doing all this kind of stuff. And that was difficult, particularly because I got outed by my football coach, because I used to do shows, but I couldn't always get all the makeup off on time before football practice. And he had just one day too much of it and just flipped out and decided that these guys that I had been playing football with for the last 4 years and some of them 6 years, suddenly they were in danger of getting raped by me, even though we were just football friends and like it wasn't about sex at all. So I got outed, and my parents did not deal with it well. They put me in an institution to try to get me straightened out. And when I came back from the institution and got thrown back into high school, many of the people that used to speak with me treated me like I was a leper. I mean, truly like a leper. They would just avoid me at all costs. And that was difficult. And it could have very well ended my life if I had chosen to, but I didn't know any better. And the nice thing about being stupid is, since you don't know better, you just get on with it. I think a lot of times kids these days just overthink things too much. I know I'm very sensitive. I feel I'm very empathic, but I also don't know any better. I am kind of a bobo, and I just get on with things. I just make it better somehow. Now, this is how things get better. First of all, when it comes to this teasing and stuff, eventually you get used to it. It's like if you lived in the 1970s, in the early 70s, and you went and saw The Exorcist. Some people fainted and had heart attacks. It was so scary to see The Exorcist. Now you look at The Exorcist, and it's not all that scary compared to other things. I remember when Freddy Krueger first came out and Jason first came out. It was like this bloodbath, and people were just absolutely mortified that we would actually go to this level of movie. And nowadays, because it's happened so much, people are just used to it. They get a resistance. I remember the first time that I was conscious enough to lose somebody that I loved, and how much that hurt, and how going to the funeral was such this, big thing. And now I've lost my entire family. I've gone to so many funerals, I'm just like, another funeral. And I know that sounds really callous, but it's the truth. If you go to, if enough people die on you, suddenly the sting comes out because you're used to it. I mean, as you get older in life, more and more and more and more and more of your friends and your family die on you. And by the time you're 60, 70, it's like every morning you get up, you go to McDonald's, you get the senior special with the free coffee, then you're off to the funeral, you come home, you take a nap, and you go to the early bird special. It's just one of those things in life. It becomes like a routine. And everything in life that is so horrible now as you're a teenager, because the issue comes when you go from child and not really conscious to, as you travel through that end of childhood into teens, before you become a true adult, there's this time where your body's changing, your ego is now running your world, and everything revolves around you. And life doesn't revolve around you. I know it feels like it does, and it's part of the process of growing up. But you'll learn soon enough that life does not revolve around you. Now, you'll see some adults that still act that way, and they get a real good smacking every once in a while because they didn't learn that lesson. So the faster you learn the lesson of it's not all about you, the better off you'll be. And that's my 2 cents into why it gets better. Because practice makes perfect. And it also gives you a callus. When you're a baby, you never walk on your feet, so they're really smooth. By the time you're running around and you're 6 or 7, you start to get calluses. Why? Because you're using your feet. Same thing with life. If you use it, you get a callus, and then suddenly you're not so sensitive anymore. And that's both a good thing, and of course, if you get too callous, that can be a bad thing. So balance is everything. Not too much, not too little, just enough. Have a great day.